Torturing Celestia by Jamin P. Rose. Celestia, 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 you should have known better, I say as I crack my whip across her cheek, making another bleeding gash that stains her coat crimson. Her eyes glare up at me, still just as defiant as when we began. The more you resist me, the more I whip you. Fuck you! She shouts, struggling against the chains that hold her down. I'll never give in! I crack my whip across her horn, drawing a deliciously agonizing scream from her. A second strike makes the scream rise in pitch dramatically. Listening to the sweet music of pain, I watch as she writhes in her chains. Several bleeding gashes across her body stain her coat with more crimson blood, her motions aggravating the wounds. I grip her mane with my magic and force her to look at me. This could have been over hours ago. All you have to do is tell me how to access the vault. Never! She screams, staring into my eyes with a burning resolve as strong as the sun. Perhaps I'm going about this the wrong way, I ponder aloud as I let go of her head. After a moment, my whip digs into her flesh again, this time on a cutie mark. Doesn't matter, this is fun and eventually you'll break. Celestia clenches her jaw and growls at me as I pull my whip back to strike again. I can't help but to laugh as I strike her again and again. More bleeding gashes appear on her coat, adding to her new crimson colour scheme. All you have to do is tell me, I say with a slightly crazed laugh. Or do you want me to whip you to death and move on to your sister? Don't you dare touch her! Ha 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 ha! I cackle as I strike her right eye with my whip. Her screams are delicious to my ears. The smell of her blood is heaven to my nose. She will be next. The only question is, do I let her see your broken corpse first? Unless you tell me how to access the vault. Never! I will never give you access to the reliquary. Celestia screams back, the blood pouring from her destroyed right eye. You'll have to kill the both of us. So be it. I will enjoy killing you, and then her. My whip lances across her left wing joint, making the already existing wound even deeper. A second, third, and fourth crack of my whip rings out along with her screams of pain. On the fifth strike, another cracking sound joins the crack of the whip. The wing hangs loose in its binding, no longer attached to her body. Her screams of pain are like an orchestra of pain and anguish. It sends a pleasing shiver down my spine as I grin sadistically at her. I'm going to take your other wing next, I say, my voice rattling maniacally. You're gonna regret not telling me what I want to know. Do your worst, she spits, the other remaining eye glaring up at me. As you command, I stutter, a little struggling to contain the madness within. My whip cracks against the joint of her other wing. Once, twice, thrice, and on the fourth the joint snaps. The wing is severed fully with one last blow as maniacal laughter billows forth from my mouth. As I raise my whip again, this time I strike her horn. Her delicious agony splatters the room like warm blood as my laughter only grows louder. Again I strike her horn, and again her agony spills forth, this time like a rushing waterfall. I whip her horn again, and again, and again, dozens of times. Each time her beautiful pain flows across the room like a wave. The sound is ecstasy to me, but nothing compares to the sound of her horn cracking and then shattering under the kiss of my whip. Her eye weeps as her anguish flows into me like the most delectable of wines, sweeter than sugar ever could be, pure, unadulterated bliss coursing through my veins like icy fire. I collapse to my knees as my body is racked with exquisite pleasure. Before me lies the visage of a broken princess, her wings severed, her horn gone, one of her eyes destroyed, and countless bleeding wounds turning her into a crimson mess. Oh Celestia, I'm so glad you resisted me. I haven't felt bliss like this in a long, long time. My voice is a shuddering whisper. Not since the first time. You monster! She whimpers, her voice weak from the pain. You'll pay. I break down into a crazed laugh as I struggle back to my hooves, fighting against the bliss that racks my body. I walk up to her and use my magic to pull her head back, forcing her to look me in the eyes with her one good eye. When I'm done with you, I'm going to destroy your sister, and your niece, and your former pupil. But first, I'm going to destroy you. Your worst. She spits in my face. I kiss her right on the lips, only for a moment, pulling back just as my whip digs into her flank. Her scream is all the sweeter as her expression goes from surprise to pain in an instant. My whip hits her flank again, cutting into her cutie mark. Again and again I strike her mark, slowly shearing away the coat and skin until her mark is gone. All that remains is a bloody mess. My whip moves over to her other side, the process beginning again. All the while her song of agony plays for me, the sweet melody of suffering, pain and anguish. When the second mark is fully removed, I stare down into her eye. Are you ready for your world to be plunged into darkness forever? Fuck you! She stuttled a little, but her resolve is harder than steel. I don't respond with words. I simply crack my whip across her one good eye, destroying it. I stand there watching blood run from her destroyed eye, smiling down at her knowing that I was the last thing that she ever saw. With a sigh, I let down my whip and walked towards the door, leaving her in the room to bleed and suffer, to dread when I return to torture her again. The wing is severed fully with the last... The wing is severed fully with the last... The wing... The wing is severe... I stare into her one eye as I rise... As I rise...